5 specialists looked my boss in the eye and said, 2 months, 60 days, pack the memories, and prepare for the end. And I was the housekeeper standing with a basket of towels thinking, no, that number doesn't belong in this house. They said it gently, like they were handing over a folded flag. Hospice brochures slid onto the entry table. The chef stopped banging pans. Even the dog lay down like he could count. And up in the corner, bedroom, 7-year-old Jamie Whitaker tried to smile around a plastic line under his nose and a chest that kept hitching, because he had learned to be gentle with grown-ups. My name is Marisol Reyes. I don't have letters after my name. I do know where the good cereal is and how to catch a kid's breath when machines go quiet. And I know the difference between a child slipping away and a child still fighting. That day, the sun in Lakefield, Colorado was throwing gold bars across the hardwood, and the whole mansion felt like it was holding its breath. Mr. Whitaker walked the doctors to the door without blinking. I palmed the brochure before it could take root, because in this house, if something didn't belong, it didn't stay. People ask why I didn't accept it. If the scans said diffuse, if 5 experts agreed, and I want to say I'm brave, but the truth is I'm stubborn, because years ago I had a daughter named Alma and a clinic in a hurry, and by the time anyone took a second look, the second look was too late. Grief will make you superstitious. It will also make you pay attention. So I read at night. I learned to hear the story inside a cough and see the lie inside a neat paragraph. And what I saw with Jamie didn't match the script. He was tired and wobbly, sure, but let a joke land, and his laugh would fill the room solid and round. He'd rally 5 minutes to show me a Lego trick slump, the way healthy kids slump after recess. And when I steadied his little body in the bath, his chest didn't feel like drowning. Everywhere it felt like something sitting and pushing, like a rude neighbor leaning on a fence. One rainy afternoon, I rolled in a portable ultrasound. The hospital left for muscle therapy, nothing fancy, like a flashlight for knots. And when I skimmed the wand along his left throat, the tiny gray screen flashed a circle with edges, not a smear. I took a breath I didn't have. "Am I going to live, Mari?" he asked, small voice, big eyes. "Yeah, baby," I said, hand steady, heart loud. "We're going to figure this out, Mr." Whitaker didn't bark or wave me off when I showed him the saved image, just stepped closer like a man at a funeral who forgot the flowers. "What am I looking at?" he said, and I said, "Maybe the reason not to quit." The next morning I took a USB and printouts to a little bungalow on Sycamore, where retired pulmonologist Dr. Evelyn Duarte keeps more journals than chairs. She doesn't suffer fools or flattery. She plugged in the drive, squinted, adjusted contrast, and finally tapped the screen. "Too tidy for what they told you," she said. "See that clean edge, how it stands off the cartilage like a marble in a sock? That's not how a diffuse tumor hugs." Then she said the word that felt like a window opening. "Granuloma, hard mass from an old infection, rare in kids but not impossible. You need a surgeon who likes puzzles." You'd think we'd march back to the original team, and they'd clap, admit the misorder, better tests. Yeah, that happened, except the opposite. Office 1 patted the air. "Ms. Reyes, we appreciate your concern, but we are far past WebMD and wishful thinking." Office 2 smiled down at my shoes. "You handle linens, we handle lesions." Office 3 gave me that soft pity that makes you smaller than dust. "There's a reason we trained 16 years, and when the family lawyer warned that if I kept interfering, I could be removed from the property." I sat on the laundry room stool, watching the dryer spin, and decided to move like invisible people move without asking permission. Late that night, I found an email for Dr. Rowan Hale, a pediatric diagnostician up near the Canadian coast, the kind other doctors roll their eyes at for being too curious and too right. I wrote the longest message of my life attached. Everything pressed send. Told God I'd take even a spam reply if it came with a phone number. And 2 days later, I got 6 words that felt like oxygen. Send the boy immediately. We left before the sun remembered its job. Quiet flight. A nurse watching oxygen, my hand on Jamie's foot, because that's how he sleeps. And the clinic in a harbor town tasted like salt and metal, not a miracle factory, just a place that remembered how to listen. Dr. Hale wore a wrinkled button-down and a wedding ring. With stories, he crouched to Jamie's eye level and said, "Hey, buddy, your throat being rude?" And Jamie smiled because the man sounded like a coach, not a priest. They ran the tests. The first hospital didn't order better imaging. Full infectious panel scopes. I don't have words for, and that evening, in a little conference room with mismatched chairs, Dr. Hale set the new scan next to the old one, tapped like a drummer finding the beat, and said the sentence that knocked the bricks off my chest, not cancer. He traced the circle. Calcified granuloma, your boy's body walled off an infection and forgot to take it down. It's squeezing his airway like a bully on a school bus. We can go in through the throat with fine tools, debulk the stone, antibiotics after risky, but nowhere near what you were told. And Mr. Whitaker pressed his fingers into his eyes until 2 white ovals appeared, shoulders shaking, and I looked away to give him privacy inside his body. They scheduled the procedure for 40 hours. Later time moved like cold honey. I braided Jamie's hair so it wouldn't tickle. He asked if there would be rockets in his throat. I said maybe little ones. He asked if I'd be there when he woke up. I said there wasn't a place on earth I'd rather be. An hour and 34 minutes after they wheeled him away, Dr. Hale walked in carrying clear sky. It's done, we got it all. And the rest wasn't cinematic. It was simple and holy. Jamie opened his eyes, reached for the usual line and didn't find it. Took a breath that sounded like summer, then said, "Hi." Not a leak, not a trapped whisper, a word with edges, and my legs forgot how to be furniture. Mr. Whitaker laughed into his son's hand like a man who remembered he was alive. And if you're asking, yes, I cried later. Not because I'm brave, because I'm human. The loud part came after a resident from the first hospital leaked the case and headlines popped like corn, Billionaire's housekeeper. Outsmarts 5 specialists. The internet loves a flipped crown. Pundits argued about arrogance and class. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, the medical board did slow, boring work, read charts, interviewed staff, found emails where a narrative came first and facts bent to fit. There were suspensions and retraining criminal charges for altered records in one case, and was it enough? Depends who you ask if you want fireworks. You'll be disappointed if you want change. You pay attention to the meeting, where someone rewrites a protocol so the next Marisol doesn't have to turn detective to keep a child breathing. Back home, the mansion remembered how to make noise. The chef burned onions again. The dog stole slippers with a clean conscience. I still carried laundry. But now people used my name, Mr. Whitaker took calls on the porch so he could watch his son chase a kite. Then he used money like a bulldozer in a way I could respect. He built a review fund for pediatric terminal cases and asked me to run it. Not to prescribe, to insist on second looks, to give nurses and caregivers real seats at the table, to make sure the folder labeled hopeless got another pair of eyes before the ink dried. I wanted to say no. Then I remembered Alma and said yes. The moment I keep is small, a Tuesday. Jamie sprinted down the drive, spun, sprinted back, leaned on my legs, catching his breath. "Hey, Mari, do you still have the picture of the bad rock?" "We looked at the saved image like tourists at a ruined castle," he said. "Doesn't scare me," and I said, "Me neither." And that right there was the revolution. If you're waiting for romance, here's the honest version, Mr. Whitaker and I learning to talk like two people with different kinds of power. He apologized for trusting a title over a truth. I apologized for letting anger sharpen my tongue, when a softer word could cut deeper. We both know we got lucky, and luck is not a plan, so we hired social workers who speak human, before systems set up a 24-hour line for families, told to start saying goodbye, trained intake to ask, "What are we missing?" and sit still for the answer. There was a nurse at Dr. Hale's who made balloon animals out of gloves and told Jamie they were space cows. Yeah, that happened. And weeks later, Jamie climbed onto the kitchen island and declared he'd be a veterinarian, astronaut chef, Mr. Whitaker said. Pick two, Jamie said no, and I thought, keep that energy, kid, the world will whittle you down if you let it. So here's where I'll leave you with breath in a boy's lungs and a question in your hands. Should those doctors have lost their licenses, or is it more useful to retrain and rebuild trust? Is it dangerous to invite housekeepers and caregivers into the medical conversation? Or is it more dangerous to keep us out? Have you seen someone dismissed because of their title and turn out to be right? Tell me where you stand in the comments. Tell me what justice looks like to you, and if you believe second opinions aren't just smart but necessary. Hit, subscribe, share this with someone who needs courage tonight. Because if we agree on one thing, let it be this. Listen to what isn't on the paper, look where the test refuses to look, and never underestimate stubborn love that refuses to quit.